So I'm answering this parent here, and I was curious if the LLL stands for La Leche League or something else, just curious. And I'm not sure if you're asking specifically about how sleep correlates with ADHD or how anxiety correlates with ADHD. So I'm going to go with the anxiety piece. And what I can tell you is that anxiety is often comorbid with ADHD. ADHD is often comorbid with anxiety. And part of this has to do with kids with ADHD they have high impulsivity, right? And so an intrusive thought will catch their attention and they'll leap into it with that impulsivity, that sort of lack of screening that comes when you don't have ADHD. Like their thoughts, mile a minute kind of thoughts, an idea comes into their head, they're already running with it, right? If that thought is an intrusive thought, like you're going to fail the exam, or what if you fail the exam? If we don't have ADHD, we can go like this, oh, that was, what a thought, and move on. If we do have ADHD, that thought might come into our head before we have a chance to kind of screen it, and it sticks there because we have ADHD, and our brains hold on to these different thoughts, and all of a sudden we're spiraling into worry about the exam, and before we've even had a chance to bring in some of our coping tools around it. So it's just really, it's easier to get anxious if you have ADHD because your brain just works in this way that anxiety can just show up and mess with your brain a little bit more. Not that that's science. There's not science like that's not a good scientific explanation, but I hope it kind of makes sense, right? The other thing is, if you have ADHD, you're living in a world that has been built for neurotypical people, which means your brain is often not aligning with what the world is asking of you, which means too that if you have ADHD, you often feel like you're failing because you are not measuring up to the expectations of the neurotypical world, and that creates anxiety. So a child in school goes to school knowing, I'm going to have trouble staying on task. I'm going to get yelled at by the teacher. I'm going to blurt out something without thinking. I might forget an important thing because I am often forgetful. And so that poor kid is going to school already worried about functioning in a neurotypical world, and that will create anxiety. So that's the kind of the poor fit environment part of ADHD. And some of that is about building some coping tools and also creating reasonable expectations and also reminding them that having neurodifferences is not a fault. You know, it's a feature, not a bug to have ADHD. Unfortunately, in a neurotypical world, we're often taking their features and turning them into bugs. Which is all to say that kids with ADHD are more likely to have anxiety. And here's the other thing. Untreated anxiety can sometimes mimic the symptomology of ADHD. Kids who are highly anxious may have trouble staying on task. They may have trouble paying attention. They're living at a higher higher agitation, and so that can look like a kid with ADHD, which is all to say they're very comorbid, and it all deserves attention and care. I'm not sure, again, if you were asking about ADHD and anxiety and sleep. So if you were, let me know so I can talk more about that. But I figure this is enough for now. And thank you for your question.